Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Christopher Stock with Inside the U, and I have 10 takeaways and tidbits following today's spring game. This is the final video of the spring series. I want to thank everybody for hitting the like button and also subscribing to the channel. Let's get right into it. My number one takeaway is freshman quarterback Jay Garcia had a very big day, 19 for 26, 247 yards and 2 touchdowns. I thought he looked great, and I think the big thing is he outperformed Tyler Van Dyke, who has been in the system for a year more than Garcia, and it was Garcia that had the big day. We've been hearing that Garcia's been doing well in the spring, but for him to come out and have this kind of performance was very impressive. He did a very good job bouncing back from his first series where he was sacked. Coach, offensive coordinator Rhett Lashley got into him a little bit. I asked Jake about that and basically just felt like he wanted him to let it rip. So that's exactly what he did. Over his next 6 series, he competed in 7 series total, and he just did a good job of moving the ball up and down the field. Also led to a number of field goals on drives that he engineered, and he just did a good job of, regardless of who he was working with, whether it was a first team or second team, he did a good job of finding the receivers, getting guys the ball, and the big thing that you like about what you saw from Jake today is he threw the ball downfield, trusted his receivers, and did a good job of being a productive player. And for Tyler Van Dyke, he goes 12 for 18, but 97 yards and a touchdown. His completion percentage was good, but the yards just wasn't there. And for Tyler Van Dyke, he's got a lot of work to do, I think, to pass Jake Garcia, because I think at this point in time, you've got to say Jake Garcia is the better player, and we'll see how everything shakes out. But Tyler Van Dyke had a solid spring, but Jake Garcia just really impressed. Number 2, Charleston Rambo, another good day for him. 7 catches, 71 yards. He is fully integrated in the Miami offense after transferring from Oklahoma. He had a big scrimmage in the second one and then had another good one today in the spring game. And what stood out to me with Charleston was he was going against some top corners out there. Did a really good job, particularly on those slant patterns. And also there was a drive where he caught 3 or 4 passes in a row. I thought that was a very good sign, just that he can be relied on that much. So certainly a good sign for Charleston Rambo, really fitting into the Miami offense. He definitely looks like he's going to be one of Miami's top receivers for the upcoming season. Number 3. Now, there wasn't a lot of runs in the game today, but Jaylan Knighton had 7 carries, 44 yards, but the big play for him was the 27-yard touchdown. He made it look easy, getting to the outside, utilizing his speed, and getting past the linebackers and defensive backs on his way to the end zone. And it might not seem like a big play, only 27 yards, but you have to remember, Jaylan had only one 20-yard run during the season last year. So I think this is a great sign for his progress, because he definitely has the ability to have long runs. And I think for him to be able to rip one off, get into the end zone, and do it in the spring game setting, I think that's a good sign for Jaylan as he makes that push to be the lead back for the Hurricanes. Obviously, that's what they want to do. And then he had a better performance than Cameron Harris in terms of if you're looking at the competition. Cam wasn't highly involved today and didn't have one of those big runs the way that Jaylan did. So a good sign for Jaylan Knighton that he was able to reel off a run like that. Number 4, and it's Mark Pope. I know he had the drop. I know what he did last season. However, you have to give him credit. 6 catches, 111 yards. And this includes a 52-yard catch. I thought it was a great sign that he had that much separation to be able to haul in that long pass. It was great that he came down with it, especially after it came after a tough drop. But if you're looking for a positive, he was wide open on that drop as well. So he's getting the ball, or he's getting downfield against defensive backs. I think that's a good sign. The big thing with Mark Pope, he just has to stack good performances together, has to continue to develop, continue to work. And he did a good job today in that production, even with that drop. And you have to understand drops will happen. He just needs to limit them, because there's not many players on the field that can catch a 50-yard pass. He did it today. Hopefully it gives him some confidence moving forward as he continues to grow and get better as a player. Number 5. Avante Williams did a good job today flashing from the safety position. There were times where you look up and you saw number 15 right there with an impact tackle, or doing a good job of trying to come up with an interception. He almost had one today, but he's active in the pass game as well. I thought it was a good sign for Avante to do that. Once again, a player looking to finish the spring off on a strong, positive note, and I certainly think he did that. Avante is going to be pressing for time, heavy playing time during the season, even though he's a first-year player after sitting out last season. So look for Avante to continue to build. I think this was a great spring for him. He was able to participate in all the practices as far as we know. which, as you remember, last season, not only did he not play in games, he didn't compete in very many practices up until the end, and he was never cleared for full contact. So, great spring for Avante. I think he finished it on a good note, and you saw a little bit of glimpses of why he was so highly touted coming out of high school as an All-American. Number 6 doesn't have to do with the game, but it's D'Eriq King. D'Eriq did a couple interviews during the game on the TV broadcast and then with reporters afterwards. Both times he just talked about how he's really coming along, feels good about his progress. He feels very good that things are continuing to progress in the right direction. Feels like he's going to be able to get some running done in the off season during the summer before fall camp. I was able to ask him a question about being at UM. I assumed he was going to be at UM during the summer as opposed to going back to Texas like he did and worked out last year. Obviously, there was a lot going on last year during the offseason. But yes, he's looking forward to being at UM. Feels like that's going to be good with his recovery. He is watching a lot of film. He said that. In addition to all the work that he's doing with his rehab. But he's watching a lot of film, feeling good about that as he continues to learn. Obviously, he's got a lot of experience as a player that's played a lot of games in college. But you never can watch too much film. And obviously, Miami has the big game against Alabama to start it off. So not only is D'Eriq recovering, watching film, excited for the summer, but he did throw some passes a little bit on the field today before the TV broadcast began. So good to see D'Eriq throwing the ball a little bit, doing as much as he can with his recovery from the torn ACL sustained in the bowl game last year. Number 7. Now, Cory Flagg is a guy that everyone expects to take over at that middle linebacker spot, and I don't think anything's changed. He was out there quite a bit today. One of the things that stood out to me in his post-game interviews was that he's really watching a lot of film. In particular, he's watching a lot of film on Shaquille Quarterman. And the reason why he's doing that is because he was a productive player. In particular, he was a productive player in Manny Diaz's defense. So he wants to try to mirror Shaq, and he actually said not only does he want to mirror him, but he wants to try to do better than what Shaq did. I think that's a great sign because obviously Shaq was a productive player at Miami, but all players should always want to try to do better than players that came before him. So he's definitely eyeing that. I'm excited about Cory in the sense that I think he's got the right mindset heading into the summer months. I think he's a guy that has made strides with improving himself physically. And I think this summer could be good for him as he continues to stay in the weight room, improve his body even more, coming into fall camp. Another guy I think that had a good spring. And I'm very excited to see what he's going to look like in the fall as he competes and looks to really wrestle that middle linebacker spot away from Bradley Jennings Jr., who started all the games there last year. Number 8. A lot is made today with the offense, the quarterback position, the wide receivers, Jaylan Knighton's run, and I think that was great. And I asked Manny Diaz about it. Look, there's a lot of attention to the offensive side of the ball, but what did he think about the defense today? It was a question mark I had going into the game, because it sounds like the offense has been doing very well in these scrimmages that were closed. And then you saw it again today, able to pass the ball well. And look, there were guys that were out because of injuries. I understand that. However, I was curious to get Diaz's take on the defense. And what he said was, it was okay. And I think that's a good way to sum it up. And also, there were guys that they're going to be counted on to play this season that were out there, in particular the defensive line, and some of them flashed and made tackles. And Coach Diaz talked about the defensive line specifically, and he really does feel like this is going to be a group that will be productive because they are going to get to the quarterback. He feels very confident in that, even though it's not going to be necessarily the big names, but definitely feels good about that. You saw some glimpses, Deandre Johnson with the safety, and also, Jalari Holly got in there with the sack. So there were some guys making plays, Elijah Roberts as well. So good to see, but overall on the defense, I think they still left a little bit out there. They could have played a little bit better, and it sounds like Diaz believes that too. So it'll be very curious watching the film back and seeing exactly if there were some things that they could have done better. And obviously you're really paying close attention to those first team guys or guys that you think are going to play quite a bit this season. Those are the guys that need to be playing well for you, and hopefully when you review the film, you feel good about how they played in this spring game. Number 9, Andres Borregales definitely looks like he's going to be Miami's kicker, and I know everybody expected him, but he is a true freshman. You never know if a guy like Camden Price or any other walk-on that's been on campus for longer would be able to hold off him, the young guy, for at least a season, but it just doesn't feel that way at all. It looks like Borregales is going to go ahead and step in, be Miami's place kicker. Not only did he make 3 field goals in the spring game, he did it from different levels. He had one in the 20s, 30s, and 40s, so it was good that he was able to hit from all distances. But it's not just his place kicking with the field goals or extra points, but he did a great job with his kickoffs. And I think that's something that's really stood out to the coaching staff. Coach Diaz mentioned it this spring. Borregales is doing a very good job of getting the ball deep on kickoffs. It's a great sign. I definitely think he has a strong shot to handle both duties for Miami this season, his freshman year. And my final 10th takeaway and tidbit, not only of the spring game, but really the totality of the spring. It's not something I've mentioned before, but a huge shout out to the walk-ons. There were guys today that stood out and made plays. I think a lot of people were curious about number 88, Dante Johnson, a wide receiver, 6'2", 6'3" range. Had 4 catches, 42 yards, so that was good to see for him. Just a productive player, and had that one catch almost 30 yards. So I asked Charleston Rambo about him. Hey, what can you tell us about Dante? And he actually has a couple nicknames for him, and it's Dez. Sometimes they call him Bean, but they really like how he uses his physicality. So shout out to Dante for strong performance in the spring game. And then also running back Isaiah Cashwell had that 25-yard run. And then Ryan Rizek threw a touchdown pass, great one to Keyshawn Smith. And then you saw Will Huggins out there quite a bit, giving some looks at tight end, moving over from receiver. These are guys, some of these guys have been in the program for a few years now, so good to see that they did well. And I know there were some other walk-ons that did well, but I want to point out those 4. So once again, I want to thank everybody for watching this series. I enjoyed it. Hopefully you did too. Once again, if you haven't yet, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. We just passed 12,000 subscribers, which is incredible. We're definitely on that road to 20K. So definitely thank everybody for watching. For more in-depth coverage,